beautiful Sophie is that she no longer has to curtsy to Meghan Markle, okay?
Sophie finally turns around and establishes eye contact with Meghan. She looks at her and doesn't blink until Meghan evades her gaze, looking down and dissolving her own smile.
Not many people have asked if I'm okay, but it's a very real thing.
He looked uncomfortable, but at the end of it, he sat there like an idiot and grinned as she mocks his grandmother and the institution that she devoted her life to.
That she is, and I quote, one of the most bullied people in the world. This is the same woman who was subjected to a lengthy Buckingham Palace investigation into bullying allegations against her.
If Meghan had turned up for the funeral on Monday, all the papers have been talking about Meghan, and Prince of Wales, the King doesn't want that. He wants, it's all about the Queen and nothing else. There was no distraction.
There are two completely different kinds of women inside the royal family, and the difference between them is wild once you really pay attention to it. One type walks into the spotlight, handles the pressure, keeps things classy, does the job without whining, and slowly earns respect from people all over the world without ever begging for attention. The other type walks in acting like the cameras should already be rolling, turns every uncomfortable moment into a public speech, signs giant streaming deals, and somehow ends up in California selling luxury lifestyle products while still talking about how unfair everything was. And honestly, the craziest part is that most people completely missed what was happening right in front of them the whole time. Because while the media was locked onto Meghan Markle every single second, watching the interviews, the dramatic exits, the Netflix scenes, the expensive outfits, the emotional podcast confessions, the awkward public appearances, the endless relaunches of lifestyle brands, and all the royal complaints dressed up as speaking her truth.
The Duchess of Sussex has revealed the struggles she faced while pregnant, saying not many people have asked if she's okay. Meghan has told a new documentary that any pregnant woman is vulnerable, and she has found it difficult to deal with media scrutiny.
Any woman, especially when they're pregnant, you're really vulnerable, and so that was made really challenging. And then when you have a newborn,
It's a long time ago, but I remember, yeah.
And especially as a woman, it's a lot. So you add this on top of just trying to be a new mom or trying to be a newlywed. It's, I guess, and also thank you for asking, because not many people have asked if I'm okay, but it's a very real thing.
There was another woman standing quietly in the background the entire time. Same palace halls, same royal events, same ceremonies, same balconies, same cameras pointed in the same direction. But unlike Meghan, she never needed to turn herself into the center of every headline. She never needed a giant emotional production to get people on her side. She simply watched everything happen, stayed calm, kept working, and without even trying publicly, she made Meghan look more and more unprepared every single year. That woman was Sophie. And Meghan never seemed to realize what was happening until it was way too late. These are 10 moments where Sophie completely outclassed Meghan Markle without raising her voice, without public attacks, and without turning it into a media circus. And trust me, do not skip number 9, because that moment changes everything. That is the moment Queen Elizabeth herself quietly steps in, and the message she sends is absolutely brutal.
Concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
What? Who is having that conversation with you?
So,
there is a conversation. Hold up.
There are several conversations.
There's a conversation with you,
with Harry,
about how dark your baby is going to be?
Potentially, and what that would mean or look like.
Number 1, Meghan rejected help, then acted abandoned. Back in October 2019, Meghan Markle sat down for that famous ITV documentary and delivered what many people saw as one of the most dramatic royal interviews in years. The tears, the shaky voice, the sad expressions, the emotional pauses. She painted this picture of herself as completely isolated inside the royal family. She claimed barely anybody had checked on her. She talked about struggling behind palace walls while the entire world watched in shock. And instantly, people flooded to her side with sympathy. Social media exploded. Commentators defended her non-stop. Headlines pushed the image of a lonely woman trapped inside a cold institution. That emotional clip became the foundation for almost everything that came after it. The Oprah interview, the Netflix series, the memoir, the interviews, the speaking deals. The entire image of Meghan as this abandoned outsider fighting against the monarchy started growing from that exact moment. And wow, the reaction was huge. People treated it like the palace had completely failed her. Some even acted like she had been thrown into royal life with no guidance whatsoever. The whole thing played like a heartbreaking movie scene, except there was one enormous detail sitting right there in the background that almost nobody talked about. The Queen had already prepared help for Meghan long before the situation exploded publicly.
One of the most irritating parts of their exchange, and one of the parts that makes it so not believable, how Harry and Meghan are now saying we never claimed racism. The whole acting job. Meghan Markle is an actress. Yeah. So is Oprah Winfrey. That was all scripted out. If you don't think that that was planned and arranged beforehand, you don't understand how Oprah Winfrey does her television show. It's not journalism, it's acting. And so for Meghan to sit there while Oprah was doing the what? They were concerned about how dark your baby. And then Meghan Markle with her doe eyes tearing up like, oh. And now they're like, racism? Who, us? We never said that. No.
And not just any help either. Queen Elizabeth personally arranged for Meghan to have guidance from the one woman in the family who understood exactly what it meant to enter royal life as an outsider and survive the pressure successfully. A woman who had already made mistakes, learned the system, adapted quietly, and earned trust over time. That woman was Sophie. Before Meghan had even fully settled into royal life, before all the complaints, before the public interviews, before the Netflix cameras, Sophie was reportedly ready to help guide her through everything. And Meghan turned the offer down. That changes the entire story completely. Royal broadcaster Giles Brandreth, someone known for being extremely close to Queen Elizabeth for decades, confirmed that the Queen genuinely tried to support Meghan early on. Sophie was there. The door was open. The support system existed. But Meghan reportedly refused it before she even realized how difficult royal life would become. So years later, when the interviews started and the narrative became, "Nobody helped me," a lot of people look back at that rejected offer differently, because at that point, critics were no longer seeing someone completely abandoned.
I do want to show you one scene that I think sums up this self-delighted and delusional pair.
How do you explain that you bow to your grandmother and that you will need to curtsy, especially to an American? Like, that's weird.
Now I'm starting to realize this is a big deal. I mean, Americans will understand this. We have medieval times, dinner and tournament. It was like that. Like I curtsied as though, pleasure to meet you, Your Majesty.
He's not cool with that.
Like, was that okay?
Oh, Sophie.
That's taking the piss out of the Queen.
He looked uncomfortable, but at the end of it, he sat there like an idiot and grinned as she mocks his grandmother and the institution that she devoted her life to. That guy is such a pitiful milquetoast that he did that. That is, I think, out of everything I've seen, the most revealing, the most sickening 10 seconds right there.
They were seeing someone who had been offered help from one of the most respected royal women in the family and decided she did not need it. And suddenly, Sophie's silence started speaking louder than Meghan's interviews ever could. Number 2, Sophie destroyed the Oprah hype with 4 words. March 7th, 2021. The Oprah interview lands on CBS, and within hours, the entire planet goes into chaos. For nearly 2 straight days, every news outlet, every social media platform, every television panel, and every royal commentator could talk about only one thing: Harry and Meghan versus the monarchy. The accusations were explosive. Claims about racism inside the royal family. Claims Meghan was denied mental health support. Claims involving Archie's royal title and conversations about skin color. Then Meghan casually dropped another massive statement, saying the royal wedding watched by millions around the world was apparently not even their real wedding. That line alone created headlines across multiple countries for weeks. Meanwhile, Prince Philip was seriously ill in the hospital at the time, and the timing of the interview made the situation even more uncomfortable for many people watching. But behind all the giant reactions, many critics believed something else was happening. Some felt the interview looked less like a serious journalistic investigation and more like a carefully managed television event. Even Megyn Kelly openly criticized the entire production, calling it overly rehearsed and heavily performative. And then came one of the most awkward moments afterward. After the backlash intensified, the conversation around racism claims suddenly became more confusing publicly, with debates exploding everywhere over what exactly had or had not been said during the interview. But while the media world kept spinning itself into chaos, Sophie's reaction was completely different. Because unlike most people discussing the interview online, Sophie actually understood media strategy professionally. Before becoming a royal, Sophie worked in public relations. She knew how narratives were built. She understood image management. She recognized media framing instantly. So while reporters everywhere waited desperately for emotional reactions from the palace, Sophie gave the coldest response imaginable. 4 words. Oprah. Who? What interview? That was it. Meghan and Harry spent 2 hours sitting under studio lighting, trying to shake the monarchy with global television drama, and Sophie brushed the entire thing aside, like somebody mentioning bad weather during afternoon tea. And somehow, that tiny response hit harder than pages of official palace statements. Then, things got even funnier afterward. At Harry and Meghan's wedding, the Archbishop of Canterbury reportedly did not even recognize Oprah when speaking to her. He allegedly asked what she did for work because he genuinely did not know who she was. The internet exploded over that too, of course, but Sophie calmly defended him without hesitation. She basically explained that if someone does not watch American chat shows regularly, there is no reason they would automatically know Oprah personally, especially in Britain. Simple, direct, no drama. And just like that, another massive media storm suddenly looked smaller than Meghan probably expected. Meghan needed an internationally televised interview to make her case. Sophie wiped away the hype with 4 casual words and a laugh. Number 3, the curtsy moment that completely backfired. December 2022. The Netflix documentary finally drops. And once again, Meghan sits down in front of cameras to explain what royal life was supposedly like behind palace walls. At this point, audiences had already seen multiple interviews, emotional speeches, podcasts, articles, and public statements, but the documentary still promised even more shocking behind-the-scenes stories. And then came the curtsy scene. The moment instantly exploded online. Meghan started reenacting how she bowed to Queen Elizabeth for the first time. But instead of treating it seriously, she exaggerated the whole thing dramatically. The deep theatrical bow, the smirk, the joking tone, the sarcastic, "Pleasure to meet you, Your Majesty" delivery. To many viewers, it looked less like a funny personal story and more like open mockery of royal traditions connected directly to the late Queen herself. And that reaction hit hard because Queen Elizabeth was not just another public figure to millions of people. She represented stability, duty, and decades of public service. So seeing that moment played for laughs inside a Netflix production immediately upset a lot of viewers, especially in the UK. Critics started hammering Meghan online almost instantly. Some people argued she misunderstood the seriousness of royal customs completely. Others believed the moment showed disrespect toward an elderly monarch who had spent her entire life protecting the institution Meghan once joined. And once again, Sophie's quiet image in the background made the contrast impossible to ignore. Because while Meghan kept turning royal experiences into entertainment content, Sophie kept doing the exact opposite. No giant interviews, no dramatic reenactments, no sarcastic television moments. She just kept showing up to events, supporting charities, representing the monarchy, and staying steady while the storms kept growing around everybody else. And that contrast became devastating over time. The more Meghan talked, the calmer Sophie looked. The more Meghan explained herself publicly, the more Sophie's silence started looking powerful. And during that Netflix curtsy controversy, many royal watchers started realizing something important. The women getting the most respect inside the monarchy were usually not the loudest ones in the room. While Prince Harry sat beside her smiling through the whole thing, Meghan Markle turned one of the oldest and most respected royal traditions into what looked like a comedy sketch for Netflix. The curtsy, something generations of royals treated with dignity and seriousness, suddenly became a punchline. Meghan acted like it was some ridiculous little performance from another century, like respectful royal customs were just awkward habits from stiff British society that she was somehow too modern and too clever for. The exaggerated bow, the dramatic face, the sarcastic delivery, all of it landed like a direct shot at the monarchy itself, and people noticed immediately. The reaction online was explosive. Social media completely lost its mind. Comment sections turned into battle zones. Royal fans were furious, critics were shocked, and even people who normally defended Meghan started admitting the whole scene felt disrespectful. Because to millions watching, this was not just some random tradition being joked about. This was Queen Elizabeth's world, a woman who had spent her entire life protecting the institution, serving her country, and representing stability through decades of history. Watching those customs mocked for entertainment money did not sit well with people at all. But now comes the part that makes the entire situation look unbelievable. The exact same Meghan who publicly laughed at curtsying later reportedly expected members of the royal family to bow and curtsy to her privately. Yes, really. After mocking the entire idea on camera for a global audience, she allegedly still wanted the royal treatment for herself behind closed doors. That detail alone made critics absolutely explode because people could not believe the contradiction. The nerve of it shocked even longtime royal watchers. Meanwhile, Sophie stayed completely silent in public. No angry interviews, no press statement, no dramatic response. She did not need one, because shortly afterward, Sophie received something far more powerful than an argument on television. She was officially given the title Duchess of Edinburgh, one of the most respected royal titles in the entire monarchy, and that title carried serious weight. Historically, it had connections to huge royal figures, including Queen Elizabeth herself and later Queen Camilla. The message behind it was impossible to ignore. Sophie's position inside the family had quietly risen higher and higher, while Meghan's public image kept getting messier by the year. And buried inside all that royal protocol was one detail that made royal fans grin instantly. Sophie no longer had to curtsy to Meghan Markle at all. Not now, not later, not ever again. No matter what Meghan says publicly, no matter what titles remain attached to her name, Sophie officially outranks her now within the royal structure. So after all, the mocking, all the jokes, all the sarcasm, Meghan ended up in the strangest position imaginable. She laughed at the curtsy publicly, reportedly wanted one privately, and in the end, got absolutely none of it in return. Before, two moments that exposed everything. This is one of those comparisons that completely changes the way people see the entire situation once the moments are placed side by side. First, Meghan's wedding preparations back in 2018. Everything about that royal wedding was carefully managed, down to the smallest detail: the dress, the flowers, the celebrity guest list, the camera angles, the music, the image. Every piece of it controlled with precision. Nothing moved forward without Meghan approving it first. Then suddenly, just days before the wedding, there was a problem with the bridesmaid dresses. Princess Charlotte reportedly became upset because her dress did not fit properly, and tensions started building fast behind the scenes. According to reports later discussed publicly, Catherine contacted Meghan because Charlotte was distressed, and the issue needed fixing quickly with only days left before the ceremony. Now think about the situation for a second. Huge royal wedding, unlimited resources, design teams everywhere, tailors available instantly, every possible luxury at Meghan's fingertips. And yet, critics later painted Meghan's response as surprisingly cold and dismissive. The attitude reportedly came across as basically, take the dress to the tailor, instead of showing much sympathy for the situation involving a young child before a massive public event. That story followed Meghan for years afterward because it created a lasting impression about how she handled stress and conflict behind palace walls. Now, fast forward to September 19th, 2022, Queen Elizabeth's funeral. One of the heaviest emotional moments Britain had experienced in decades. The entire country stood still. Crowds filled the streets. Flowers covered palace gates. Millions around the world watched in silence as the royal family mourned publicly together. And during that heartbreaking ceremony, young Prince George stood in front of the entire world, carrying enormous pressure on his shoulders. Cameras everywhere, global attention everywhere, emotion everywhere. It was an impossible moment for a child. And who quietly stepped in nearby? Sophie. No dramatic speech, no media announcement, no carefully staged photo opportunity afterward. She simply reached out with warmth and comfort during a difficult moment and stayed close to him as the world watched. It looked natural, calm, protective, and completely genuine. That image spread quickly because people instantly noticed the contrast. Same royal family, same pressure, completely different instincts. One situation reportedly centered around stress, tension, and frustration behind the scenes. The other centered around calm support during one of the hardest public moments imaginable. And once people started comparing those moments side by side, they could not stop talking about it. Because moments like that reveal character in ways interviews never can. Number 5. The car ride nobody can stop talking about. Queen Elizabeth had passed away. Britain was grieving. The atmosphere across the country felt heavy and emotional in a way people had not seen for generations. Crowds gathered outside Buckingham Palace every single day. The silence during public ceremonies felt overwhelming. Even longtime royal reporters admitted the mood surrounding London was unlike anything they had ever experienced before. But during all that mourning, another conversation kept happening quietly behind palace walls and inside media circles. People were worried about Meghan. More specifically, they were worried about how Meghan would behave during such an emotional royal event after years of public attacks against the institution. That concern was everywhere. Then came September 14th, the procession carrying the Queen's coffin from Buckingham Palace to Westminster Hall. Harry walked behind the coffin publicly, which meant Meghan needed separate transportation. Now, here is where things get really interesting. The palace could have placed Meghan with almost anybody, a neutral staff member, another royal, an aide, somebody quiet and distant just to avoid awkwardness. Instead, Meghan was placed in a car with Sophie, just the two of them. Think about how tense that must have been. On one side sat Meghan, the woman involved in the Oprah interview, the Netflix series, the public accusations, and the memoir already creating panic behind palace walls. On the other side sat Sophie, one of the Queen's most trusted family members, a woman deeply loyal to the monarchy who had spent years quietly protecting the institution from chaos. And according to reports discussed by royal insiders, Sophie allegedly chose to do it. No cameras, no microphones, no Harry sitting in between them, no aides smoothing things over. Just Meghan and Sophie alone together during one of the most emotionally charged moments imaginable. Royal author Tom Bower later raised questions about what may have been said during that ride, and honestly, people still wonder about it now because Meghan spent years running directly toward cameras every chance she got. The Oprah interview, the Netflix series, magazine covers, public speeches, podcasts. But somehow, many people suspect those quiet minutes alone with Sophie probably felt more uncomfortable than any television interview Meghan had ever faced. Because cameras can be managed. Silence from someone who truly sees through everything is a completely different kind of pressure. Number 6. One chased celebrity, the other chose duty. At the heart of this entire royal drama sits one question people keep asking over and over again. Did Meghan actually want royal service, or did she mainly want royal status? Critics argue the answer became obvious very quickly. The titles, the global recognition, the invitations, the luxury, the worldwide attention. That part clearly appealed to Meghan. But the quieter side of royal life, the constant duty without applause, the endless public service events, the years of routine appearances without glamour, that seemed much harder for her to embrace. Royal life is not just castles and headlines. A huge part of it is repetitive work, patience, discipline, and showing up consistently, even when nobody is cheering for you. And critics argue Meghan lost interest in that part almost immediately, so eventually she and Harry stepped away, moved to Montecito, and started building a completely different life, centered heavily around media projects and commercial deals. But then came the awkward part. So many of those business projects still depended heavily on royal connections, despite the couple publicly criticizing the monarchy constantly. The Spotify deal struggled badly before collapsing. The podcast disappeared. Multiple lifestyle rebrands confused audiences. The Netflix content revolved heavily around royal drama. Again and again, critics felt Meghan kept trying to profit from the same institution she publicly attacked. People started joking that she burned the bridge while still trying to drive across it afterward. Meanwhile, back in Britain, Sophie quietly kept working. No giant interviews explaining her sacrifice. No dramatic public speeches demanding sympathy. No media tour. She simply noticed gaps inside the royal workload after Harry and Meghan left and stepped in to help fill them. More appearances, more responsibilities, more support for the monarchy. Year after year, Sophie quietly became more essential to the institution without turning herself into the headline. Even Lady Colin Campbell openly praised Sophie and Prince Edward for stepping up steadily and becoming deeply important figures inside the monarchy without demanding praise for it. And that difference became impossible for people to ignore. Meghan spent years chasing global fame after leaving royal life. Sophie stayed focused on service and slowly became one of the most trusted members of the entire royal family without needing cameras to prove it. Number 7, the humanitarian trip that immediately raised eyebrows. February 2026. Harry and Meghan suddenly arrive in Jordan, and instantly royal watchers started asking questions. Because according to reports circulating at the time, the Jordanian royal family, known for being extremely close with Prince William and Princess Catherine, reportedly had very little interest in publicly associating themselves with Harry and Meghan after all the royal drama that had unfolded. Things became even more controversial once Harry and Meghan arrived in Jordan. There was reportedly no official invitation from the British Embassy, no formal royal role connected to the trip, and no recognized government purpose behind the visit. Yet they still appeared at an iftar, gathering during Ramadan, one of the most meaningful traditions in the Muslim faith, where families gather at sunset to break their fast together. And immediately, critics started asking what exactly they were doing there. Because from the outside, the whole thing looked far more like a publicity appearance than a quiet humanitarian mission. Meghan arrived in expensive designer outfits, photographers seemed perfectly positioned ahead of time, and media coverage rolled out almost instantly afterward. Then came the backlash. The British Foreign Office reportedly distanced itself from the trip entirely, and reports claimed officials considered the situation inappropriate. Meanwhile, the Jordanian royal family reportedly did not meet with Harry and Meghan at all, despite their strong ties with Prince William and Princess Catherine. And while questions kept growing around the trip, Meghan appeared focused on cameras, wardrobe changes, and carefully staged public moments. Now compare that with Sophie. Same year, completely different approach. No publicity campaign, no photographers waiting for perfect shots, no dramatic media rollout. Sophie quietly traveled to Ukraine during an active war, becoming the first member of the British royal family to visit the country since the conflict began. She visited Kiev, she traveled to Bucha, she met survivors and listened carefully to their experiences without turning the visit into a performance for headlines. No flashy outfits, no staged emotional scenes, no cameras following every step. She simply showed up because she believed it mattered. Sophie also personally delivered a letter from King Charles to President Volodymyr Zelensky, making the trip even more significant. And that comparison said everything to royal watchers. One trip looked focused on publicity, the other looked focused on service. Number 8, Sophie noticed everything. Now, we return to Commonwealth Day at Westminster Abbey, Meghan's final official royal engagement before stepping away from royal life and moving to California. At that point, tensions inside the family were already growing. Reports about future interviews and media deals were circulating quietly behind palace walls, and many people believed the least Meghan could do was remain respectful during one final service. Just stand still, look serious, and get through the afternoon. But critics later argued Meghan looked distracted during the ceremony, almost like she had already mentally checked out of royal life completely. While Sophie, Princess Catherine, and the other working royals focused fully on the service, Meghan reportedly appeared restless, whispering, shifting around, and acting like the entire event was just something to get through before leaving for her new life in California. And Sophie sat only feet away, watching it all happen. Now here is the moment people still talk about. Sophie never reacted publicly. No visible frustration, no confrontation. Years of royal discipline kept her expression almost perfectly controlled. But later, body language experts reviewing the footage claimed there was one brief moment Sophie could not completely hide what she was thinking. During one exchange, Sophie reportedly looked directly at Meghan without blinking until Meghan eventually looked away and stopped smiling. No words needed to be spoken. The tension alone said enough. Meghan appeared focused on performance, while Sophie quietly watched everything unfold around her. Number 9, the exit that revealed everything. Still the same Commonwealth Day service, same afternoon, same final appearance. And before anyone even left the building, Queen Elizabeth had already sent what many royal experts considered a very deliberate public message. The previous year, Harry and Meghan were positioned much closer to Prince William and Princess Catherine during the ceremony. This time, things were different. The Queen placed Harry and Meghan behind Prince Edward and Sophie in the royal order. That detail mattered enormously. Edward and Sophie were lower in the line of succession, yet Harry and Meghan were visibly positioned behind them during one of the monarchy's biggest public events. Royal watchers immediately understood the symbolism. No public statement, no angry speech, just royal protocol making the message perfectly clear. And then the situation became even more awkward. When it was time to leave, Edward and Sophie were reportedly meant to exit first, according to the planned order. But Harry and Meghan moved ahead instead, stepping in front as cameras captured the moment. The clip spread everywhere because viewers immediately noticed the tension surrounding the awkward exit. And once again, Sophie stayed completely calm. No public reaction, no visible irritation, no dramatic scene. She simply stepped back quietly with the same composed energy people had watched from her for years. And honestly, that calm reaction only made the contrast between the two women stand out even more. Number 10, the woman who stayed silent. Here is one of the biggest differences critics constantly point out between Sophie and Meghan. Both entered the royal family as outsiders. Both had careers before marriage. Both faced enormous media attention after joining the monarchy. But according to royal commentators, Sophie endured years of brutal tabloid treatment long before Meghan ever arrived. Stories about her were relentless at times, and reports suggest even Prince Harry once reacted strongly to how aggressive some of the attacks became. Yet despite all of it, Sophie almost never publicly complained. No emotional documentaries, no public victim narrative, no endless television interviews, She simply continued carrying out royal duties year after year without turning herself into the center of the story. Meanwhile, Meghan publicly described herself during one event as one of the most bullied people in the world, a statement that immediately triggered backlash because Buckingham Palace had also reportedly been investigating complaints involving treatment of staff members working under her at the same time. Several reports claimed employees left emotionally distressed after working in Meghan's office, though the final investigation results were never publicly released. And once again, the comparison became impossible for royal watchers to ignore. Sophie faced years of pressure quietly and became one of the monarchy's most trusted figures. Meghan publicly discussed her struggles constantly and became one of the most controversial royals in modern history. And that is why so many people believe Sophie dismantled Meghan without dramatic interviews, Netflix deals, or public attacks. She simply stayed calm, stayed disciplined, and quietly earned respect over time, while Meghan remained focused on image, branding, and publicity. And honestly, that may be the most humiliating part of this entire story. Meghan appeared so focused on cameras and public perception that she never fully noticed the woman sitting nearby, quietly watching everything the entire time. Now I want to hear your thoughts, because this comment section is definitely about to explode. Which moment was the most devastating for Meghan? Was it the Queen reportedly arranging Sophie to help her early on before everything collapsed? Was it those tense private moments with Sophie during the Queen's funeral events? Or was it the final Commonwealth Day exit after Queen Elizabeth publicly repositioned Harry and Meghan in front of the entire world? Drop your answer in the comments right now, because I read every single one. And if you've been following this royal drama from the start, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell, because this story is nowhere near over yet. There is still so much more people are not talking about, and every new chapter somehow becomes even more dramatic than the last.